All right. We are on item number 15, the 2017 Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, the SAFER grant. We have Pete.
Well, Mayor Didball, members of the City Council, thank you for having me tonight. It's been a long night, so I'll try and be brief. I do need to provide one point of clarification, especially since the police chief is here. So based on our visitors we had earlier tonight, we'll be officially changing the name of our Yuba City Fire Department versus Yuba City Police Department football fundraiser to Yuba City Fire Department / California Highway Patrol versus Yuba City Police Department. So just want to get that in while I can, make sure we can get CHP on working our side. So
They'll just get her.
sorry I had to. I was first one up to the mic. So with that, let's talk about SAFER grant. What does SAFER stand for? It stands for Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. SAFER grant is funded through Homeland Security. It's a competitive process. It involves career and volunteer fire agencies across the nation. I think it's really important to understand the goal of the SAFER grant. The goal of the SAFER grant, and this is specifically out of the language of the grant and the guidance documents, is to assist departments to improve staffing levels to ensure they have adequate personnel to respond and safely perform at incident scenes, providing protection from fire and fire-related hazards in their community. That's the goal of the SAFER grant. The purpose of the SAFER grant is to assist fire departments increase the number of firefighters to help communities meet industry minimum standards and attain 24-hour staffing to provide adequate protection from fire and fire-related hazards and to fulfill traditional missions of fire departments. We've been applying for the SAFER grant for quite some time now. This isn't a new process for us. However, as these grants evolve, things change, especially with new administration. So some of the key changes that have occurred in this grant versus previous grants that we've had through the SAFER program is the hiring grant will pay for raises or increases to firefighter pay or benefits in years 2 or 3. That was a question that was posed. And the answer is no. So let me give you an example. In our current SAFER grant, we had certain thresholds we had to meet. We had to get people our firefighters from fire recruit to firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and that included merit increases that the city manager was referring to earlier. That was part of our grant. That was part of the condition of the grant, and they funded that. FEMA's gotten wise and said, we're not doing that anymore. We're not going to fund merit increases. And so basically, what you bring them in at is what level you keep them at. Okay. And that's an important concept because that's an important change to this grant. Another change to the grant is the current grant we have is a pretty darn good grant. It's 100% funded. So for the last 2 years, I've been able to fund anywhere from 6 to 9 personnel thanks to FEMA, and they've covered the cost of the grant for us. This grant's different. This grant, they're asking for some matching funds. And this is nationwide. This isn't just to California. So we are asking for 9 full-time limited-term firefighters again. It is a 3-year grant versus a 2-year grant, which is nice. But the matches are different. The first year match will be 75%. FEMA will pay 75%, and the city will be responsible for 25%. Year 2 is also 75-25. Year 3 is where they kind of get you a little bit. It's 35-65. They fund 35%, and the city has to fund 65%. So when I looked at some of the guidance document changes, the one I just talked about, which was when you come in, that's what you fund at, and you stay at that level for 3 years. I looked at as you can see, there's a big difference between fire recruit wages. So on your left, you got the PEPRA people, which are the new ones. On the right is your classic PERS person, depending on who we bring into the organization. But as you look from fire recruit, we'll stick with the PEPRA on the left, which is easier. They come in at about $81,000 for salaries and benefits. But a firefighter 2 is $124,539. So if I bring someone in at fire recruit level on the SAFER grant, they will stay at that $81,325 per the guidance document for the 3 years. So in some ways it's nice because there's a savings, because if that obviously if that were to go up, we would have to our cost would proportionally go up. So in this case it'll stay down because of their new guidance document. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at as far as costs. So that's the stat that I use. I went off the fire recruit level pay. So as you can see, and these numbers are a little small, I apologize, but basically for the first year, the city's going to fund $186,500, and the grant funds $559,000. The same thing for the second year. The third year, the city will be responsible for roughly $484,000, and the FEMA would pay $261,000. So over the life of the 3-year grant, we're looking at about a city contribution of about $857,000 roughly, and a FEMA grant match of about 1.4 million. So it's a pretty good bang for the buck for 9 firefighters for 3 years. So one of the things I tried to work with on the finance director was some offsetting some savings. How can we save some money to lower our contribution? This is my recommendation. The reason I'm asking for 9 is I'm asking to overstaff by 1 person on each shift. So in 2017, I'll give you a quick example. We had about 178 shifts, which would be, a shift is a 24-hour period. So we had 178 shifts of firefighter and fire apparatus operator overtime that had to be covered either due to vacation, sick leave, strike team assignments on wildland fires, that type of stuff. So I kind of took that number that's in 2017 of 178 shifts. For me to backfill those shifts, which I did, it cost me approximately $567,000 in overtime. So what I would recommend that we do is if we overstaff with 9 safer people instead of just 6, I'd have an extra person on each shift, and then the first person that's off duty, a firefighter or equipment operator, we wouldn't backfill it with overtime. We would take that person, the extra body that we'd have on another engine, and shift them over to fill wherever that vacancy is, saving us 178 shifts of overtime on average, if that were to occur again in the next fiscal year. So approximately $567,000 could be saved. So now we've dropped some of our costs from the $800,000 range, probably more into more likely the $350 or $450 range. And the reason I put that in there is I'll come back if we're awarded the grant. If you approve it tonight to apply, if we're awarded the grant, I'll come back because the devil's always in the details and provide very specific numbers on a very much exact cost. I just kind of want to give you a ballpark figure for tonight because there's other incidental things we have to do. And we have to get turnouts and uniforms and all that costs money. So that would be some other costs that I have to make sure I share with you. So that's where I kind of fudged a little bit and said on the high side 450, on the low side 350. So hopefully that makes some sense. So I'm before you tonight to ask your permission to move forward and apply for the SAFER grant for the next 3 years, knowing that there are some cost matches that need to occur that I shared with you. So my recommendation is to authorize the fire department to submit an application to the Department of Homeland Security for consideration of funding under the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response, known as the SAFER grant, for the hiring of 9 limited-term firefighters. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for?
Through the mayor. I know that the recruit is, of course, the lowest entry level that you have. Did you do any research on whether what the cost would be for the firefighter 1 overall cost if you were to do that and hold that for 3 years?
I have not done that yet, but I can, as you can tell from here, there's about a $7,000 to $8,000 annual difference between fire recruit and firefighter 1.
8 times 9 is what the difference would be.
72,000 times 3.
Right.
And if they go to, if I were to bring on firefighter 2s, it's quite a big difference.
That's, yeah.
So, does that answer your question, sir?
Okay. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
So,
Sorry.
I mean, so Chief, probably just a few things. Your analysis on being able to bring them in, that would be, I think, to really see what the real flow would look like and what the real savings might off of last year would be helpful to be able to see that on a go-forward basis.
Okay.
Because I believe that the numbers are probably fairly close, but I'd like to see where some of your mandatory staffing is at certain levels and things like that for if they're going to be gone on vacation and things like that.
Okay.
So that would be helpful to be able to see that. And seeing that you're in a negotiating mood, I'd like to see the Green Bay picture completely removed from all future presentations made by the fire department. And you
Wasn't Dallas.
And I would agree. That you get all the CHP officers on your team, with the exception Yuba City gets Captain Ellison.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that was what I was striving for. So, thank you, sir.
With that, do we have a motion?
All right, a couple questions,
Oh.
if I may.
Yeah.
Chief, have you getting any concern or thought to these folks coming in, these 9, and they get trained for a year, maybe 2, and then disappear to places elsewhere than Yuba City, being we're paying recruit wages?
So let me give you our track record. So I can tell you that, first of all, when I go through a recruitment process, I usually don't have any challenges with people applying to be firefighters.
Right.
I usually get in the hundreds of people applying. Through a whittling down process, we try and pick all the A students, obviously, and get the best of the best. Of this SAFER grant, I'll just give you an example. There's a lot of benefits to the SAFER grant because it gives us a longer period of time to look at firefighters to see if they work for us or not. And in all honesty, does a candidate or the firefighter feel that we work for them? It also provides an opportunity to let me back up a second. So to get back to answer to your question, when we started the SAFER grant, I hired 9 people. One of them went back down to Southern California and was offered a full-time job while on the grant, so I can't blame that person for going. So is there a chance that people can leave? Yes. But I can also tell you the other 8 of the 9 we hired full-time. Not a bad track record. Then we backfilled it with another 7. Of that 7, one of them went to the Bay Area to a full-time job who was on a grant. Can't blame him for leaving who on a grant to a full-time job. Of the 6 remaining I have, I'd say the odds are very good. Not very good, unless for some reason they don't perform well between now and then when the grant ends, I'll be picking up another 4 out of the 6. So just through attrition and other things, we've been pretty successful on picking people up full-time, and they've been sticking around. So the program's been very successful for us, and I haven't had an issue with people leaving because of recruit wages. I just haven't had that situation. Is it a possibility? Yes. But has it happened to me yet? Not really. Would I like to bring them in at firefighter 2 wages? Yeah, that'd be great. But I'm looking at what the federal government changed the guidance documents. So we've always hired at fire recruit level. It's very rare that we've brought someone in at a firefighter 1 or 2 level. In fact, in 30 years I've been here, I can't think of if we've done that. We've brought, just in the last couple of years, we brought in lateral engineers or FAOs, but not firefighter 1 or 2s.
And and I know law enforcement agencies sometimes do this. If folks come in, they're obligated to stay for a certain amount of time before they consider employment elsewhere. Has there been any consideration given to that in this situation?
I don't think I can do that.
I don't think so.
To be honest with you, if a person has an ability to get a full-time position somewhere who's working for us on a grant, we look at that as a positive thing, not a negative thing, and they can, they take that full-time position.
By full-time, you mean permanent?
Permanent position, yes. I'm
Okay.
sorry, yeah. Full-time, I mean permanent.
All right. And then the folks that are extra bodies, if say someone does not come in sick or call in sick or vacation and whatnot, what is their plan for them if they don't have a vacant spot to fill?
So let's take the example of 2017. So I have 178 days that a firefighter or engineer is off duty, that person will probably be stationed at Station 1. I have a 2-person company. That'll be a 3-person company. So which is a good thing, right? We want to get as many 3-person companies as we can. But what will happen is that person will go to fill in whatever spot. On the other 187 days that someone's not off on vacation or sick leave, there'll be extra staffing on that engine. And that'll benefit as far as call volume and simultaneous calls and meeting our NFPA standards that we try and meet.
Then, and just one more thing, thank you for bearing with me.
No, you're okay.
These folks that come on, these 9, they're fully aware that this is a recruit level wage for the entire 3 years.
They will be, yes. They'll be fully aware that's a recruit wage for 3 years.
Getting into.
Yeah. We just found out within the last 30 days when the guidance documents came out.
All right. And they may or may not be hired. It depends on how things work out in 3 years from now, but they're fully aware of that when they sign the line.
They're fully aware. So what happens is when they come on board, first of all, I have my certification list. We got done early. We got our recruitments done, so they're ready to go. We're making contact with them, letting them know that we'll probably hear in August or September. And if we're successful getting the grant, then we'll hold chiefs interviews, and then they'll be hired, knowing that they're limited term full time for 3 years, and they'll know what wages they get coming in. And I'm just not having a problem with recruiting, and it's a pretty good deal to get not only salary but wages and benefits as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Through the mayor, just keyed in on one thing here. So one of the set of comments you made. I know this last Safer grant, we had some significant retirements and moving, and so you were able to utilize many of the Safer grant participants and employees to go into permanent positions, which was fantastic, because I know that you have a really good crew right now on that. And in this process, you plan on trying to utilize as many of the best, I guess, of the best of these groups to bring them on as attrition and retirements and different things, that you can bring them on permanently. And to do that, I guess the recruits would have to be going through classes, school, education stuff. What kind of education benefits, or what are we going to give them through the process? Since it's not provided within the granting, would Yuba City be extending some way to incentive for them to get schooling to advance up for that possibility?
So we haven't got too far down that road yet, but what I would recommend is we're always going to offer, we're going to treat just like when our grant people came on, we treat them just like full-time permanent fire recruits. And we're going to get them through the programs, through their manuals, their Firefighter 1 program, their Firefighter 2 program. We're going to do the same with these new recruits coming on. If they want to go through those programs, and usually they want to because they're state certifications. So even if they don't stay, then they have some certifications to move on with. But we're going to do the best. We're always really good about training people and getting into a level, the highest level that we can, to help them be successful. So training is usually not an issue, at least for me in the department. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Answers a couple of concerns I had.
Okay. If there are not any questions, we don't have any cards, so do we have a motion?
I'd move the item.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Great. Thank you.